All right, good afternoon on this Ash Wednesday as we come together to continue our study on the book of Revelation. And we left off and we're going to resume at chapter 12. So turn to Revelation chapter 12. And now we get into some of the dynamic part of the story. Because there hasn't been anything that's been intense or dramatic so far, right? Okay, so.
Well, there hasn't really, except those two witnesses.
We're about to really enter the mythology here. So if I can get someone to read chapter 12, verses 1 through 6.
A great sign appeared in heaven. A woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a third of the stars out of the sky and flung them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth so that it might devour her child the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, that she might be taken care of for 1,260 days.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have this beginning, and a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And as we begin, we can connect that the 12 stars can represent the zodiac. And can also be representing the 12 tribes of Israel. And we also are able to denote a couple different symbolisms of who this woman is. Could be a symbol of Israel, being the mother that births the Messiah. Catholic teaching would share that it's the Blessed Virgin Mary. Giving birth to Jesus the Savior. And as we move forward, we have that understanding of the dragon designated for Satan, and that will occur for 9 times in the book of Revelation. And in the Greek translation of the Old Testament, they use the same term for Leviathan, the enemy of God. So there's other ways that they make that connection with the dragon being Leviathan. And a dragon with 7 heads is a figure in Ugaritan mythology, symbolizing 7 successive rulers. So the 7 successive rulers are going to be the emperors that they believe have given over power through a period of time, and they are, overbearing, they are oppressive, and it's that symbolism of the Roman Empire. As we continue in our thinking, it's noted that the child is the Davidic Messiah, who will conquer the enemies of Israel. And as I turn the page, at least to this reference, you see that her child was snatched away and taken to God and to his throne. And so it's kind of an interesting way in which this writer doesn't reference the crucifixion or resurrection here. He's actually referencing the ascension. So the ascension is basically in this mythology how Jesus is rescued from Satan's pursuit. And as we wrap up those verses, going into the wilderness is a reference to the book of Exodus. And lots of times that's where there can be protection and safety. Any questions about that?
So the people who read this understood it the way that you said back then they would have understood it to be the Roman Empire.
It would have, yeah. They would have picked up these clues that this is referencing the Roman Empire. And as we'll find out, that there's a spiritual element underneath that Satan is using the Roman Empire to do these oppressive things.
What do the 10 horns represent?
The 10 horns, if we go back to...
I always thought that meant the Roman emperors. Weren't there 10 Roman emperors?
Yeah, basically it represents 10 kings or kingdoms. It's basically used as a metaphor for power, imperial power. That's all contained there. All kinds of references, especially in this very vivid and imaginative story with the woman and the dragon. So what do you feel? There's kind of a debate about, is this Israel birthing the Messiah, or is this a reference to the Virgin Mary birthing the Messiah? What do you respond better to?
I think the birthing of Israel.
Okay. The connection to the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. So we've seen lots of different references to the Old Testament in the book of Revelation.
Well, it seems like all this reference to the power would be the power that was over Israel, not particularly power over Mary.
Yep.
Mary wasn't really a big controversial figure that people were attacking or anything.
Right.
It doesn't appear so.
Yeah. The metaphor really is a little bit more powerful if we make that connection. So that's a good observation. Let's dive into verses 7 through 12, if someone could read that.
War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought the dragon. The dragon and his angels fought back, but were no match for Michael. They were cleared out of heaven, not a sign of them left. The great dragon, ancient serpent, the one called Devil and Satan, the one who led the whole earth astray, thrown out, and all his angels thrown out with him, thrown down to earth. Then I heard a strong voice out of heaven saying, Salvation and power are established, kingdom of our God, authority of his Messiah, the accuser of our brothers and sisters thrown out, who accused them day and night before God. They defeated him through the blood of the Lamb, the bold word of their witnesses. They weren't in love with themselves. They were willing to die for Christ. So rejoice, O heavens, and all who live there, but doom to earth and sea. For the devil's come down on you with both feet. He's had a great fall. He's wild and raging with anger. He hasn't much time, and he knows it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So basically we have this war in heaven, and nowhere else is there a heavenly battle that's depicted in Jewish or early Christian literature. Jewish apocalyptic literature preserves that the heavenly revolt, at least, of Lucifer that maybe you've heard about in Scripture. And that is what gives inspiration for Milton's Paradise Lost, if you've read that or heard reference to that. Michael is one of 7 traditional archangels, usually presented as commander of the host of angels. The great dragon thrown down is an expulsion of Satan from heaven based on a Jewish expulsion myth that's referenced in the Old Testament. And it's invigorating battle, but we don't have any other images of other than it didn't seem very hard. It happened and then it was over. God's angels defeated what happened, and Satan is cast down.
But it also said that because he was cast down, he was very angry, and that the people on earth better be aware.
That's right. That's right. And so then we have that reference to what you're speaking of, referencing to the persecution that is then orchestrated by Satan. So they're kind of knitting together, Satan and imperial power being one and the same. So this dark force uses essentially the Roman Empire to oppress or persecute Christians. And so we can see how that plays out there. We also have had reference in this chapter to a very interesting parallel. This references your handout about the connection to the myth of Apollo's birth, and how the writer kind of used that because it would have resonated as an understanding from Greek culture. So in Revelation 12, we have a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, a crown of 12 stars, about to give birth. A great red dragon waits to devour the child. The woman gives birth to a male child who will rule the nations. The child is caught up to God. War breaks out in heaven. The dragon is cast down to earth. The woman flees into the wilderness where she is protected. In the Apollo's birth myth, there is the goddess Leto becomes pregnant by Zeus. Hera attempts to prevent Leto from giving birth. The serpent Python pursues Leto, and Leto gives birth to Apollo on Delos. Apollo later slays Python. And so we have this intersection of mythology that essentially helps the symbolism for the reader they would have understood the parallel of what this was referencing. And it would have just added lots of cultural information to the reader. Any questions? Let's finish this chapter 12 by reading 13 through 17. Who would read that?
When the dragon saw that he had been thrown down to the earth, he chased the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given the 2 wings of the great eagle so that she could fly to her place in the desert. There she would be taken care of out of the snake's reach for a time and times and half a time. Then from his mouth the snake poured a river of water after the woman so that the river would sweep her away. But the earth helped the woman. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed the river that the dragon poured out of his mouth. So the dragon was furious with the woman, and he went off to make war on the rest of her children, on those who keep God's commandments and hold firmly to the witness of Jesus.
Okay, very good. So yeah, we have what happens after the dragon, after Satan is thrown down to earth. He pursues the male child. The woman is given wings, flies away. The mouth of the river the mouth of the earth opens up to thwart what happens. And then there's this basically the dragon is going to continue this assault, as we are reinforcing how the persecution and oppression is happening with Jesus's followers. Okay?
Geez, what does it mean when it says she's nourished for a time and times and half a time?
Very good. So basically, a time is a year. And so they're basically claiming in this little commentary that they're saying it's like 3.5 years. So time and times and half a time. So I guess they take time as a whole year. And then they came up with this figure. So 3.5 years of that. Of that. And if you remember, there's that 1,260 days. So I think that's still connecting that mark. And we've had reference to that, I think, 3 or 4 different times. And so basically, the reference is just that there is a great amount of time of persecution, or a great amount of time of wrath or of devastation that's continuing. Okay, so chapter 13, I'll read the first few verses. Then the dragon took his stand on the sand of the seashore, and I saw a beast rising out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. And on its horns were 10 diadems, and on its heads were blasphemous names. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. The dragon gave it his power and his throne and great authority. One of its heads seemed to have received a death blow, but its mortal wound had been healed. In amazement, the whole earth followed the beast. They worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" So, John represents that this is both Rome and the emperors as this Leviathan, or this dragon. And this beast that comes forth looks to be a combination of 4 beasts that are described or utilized in Daniel chapter 7. So you can turn there if you want and look and see that there's some of those 4 beasts that are now in this one beast. And then as it references these blasphemous names, this is not like curse words. This is that those names are titles for God or deity. And at that time, Roman emperors had those titles: Son of God, Lord, or Savior. And so as we hear that reference, the blasphemous names connect us also to the emperors that would have had those designations. And so it's put into the forefront, again, this take. And that the dragon gave power to Rome to crush and oppress the Christians. And this revelation is God's destruction of the empire on earth and the evil empire of the dragon. As you heard there's a reference to the death blow or a mortal wound. And so I found this extremely fascinating. So what seems to be happening here is that this is referencing Emperor Nero. And Emperor Nero died by suicide. And that at that time, there was legend that either he was still alive somehow or that he had come back from the dead. And so this legend is still alive and adds to the mythology that this evil emperor is now resurrected or brought back to then exact and share oppression. Okay? Thoughts about that? I found that very fascinating.
So the people who are reading this and getting the symbolism and all that, they had to be a pretty small percentage of the population, because wasn't most of the population illiterate? So who were these people that were actually reading this and understanding the symbolism? Were they more educated people or priests, or who were they mainly?
You know, that is a good question to ask. I think that scholars will say it's probably more complicated to understand the literacy rates at the time. It's probably safe to say that there's a good percentage that were extremely illiterate, the poorer the person is. But the more educated, or depending on the job that that person had, that may require a little bit of literacy. In the Christian communities, hopefully everyone would be able to have those alphabets at the time to decipher. So they would hopefully have had different writings that were passed along from different Christian communities.
So this was actually a written thing, and not an oral thing that they've passed on.
That's true. That they would have had copies of this in some way. However, I do think that in this time and then further back, the ability of oral tradition was much stronger.
Right.
Their ability to just share dialogue and story was easier, or how they learned. And so when someone spoke about things, my assumption is that that was absorbed pretty well and memorized as part of their oral tradition.
Of course, I say I picture this beast. Has anyone ever done an artwork of all the heads? And
I'm sure they have.
And I've never
I should
seen,
Google it and send and present some.
Oh no, I can't do that. I'm not that techie. But you can just vision all of that.
Yes, you
and
can.
all of that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, it paints a great picture.
It does, yeah. I have no doubts that there's not portraits and pictures, and with AI art, I'm sure people have just typed in, make me a really cool watercoloring image of blank and blank and blank.
Well, somebody else has to do that. I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, there's probably lots of depictions. And part of it is like, there are some things that still leaves to the imagination. It paints the different body parts. It paints how many heads, but it's up to you to imagine how big, or how ferocious this thing looks, or some of you are Googling all these kinds of things.
Carol find it?
I'm sure you can find nightmares.
Well, just the middle picture would be. See, I knew that somebody would be better than this. Oh yeah, that's perfect.
And this is also, let's remember, this is all coming from different cultures of Greco-Roman mythology that has all kinds of beasts, figures. I mean, we have the Hydra. That's an infamous creature. Yeah, Ezekiel has lots of these figures.
Medusa would drive me crazy with all those snakes. I tell you.
So let me continue reading for us at verse 5. The beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. And it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. He was given authority over every tribe and people and language and nations. And all the inhabitants of the earth will worship it, and everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb that was slaughtered. Let anyone who has an ear listen. If you are to be taken captive, into captivity you go. If you kill with the sword, with the sword you must be killed. Here is a call to the endurance and faith of the saints. So that's just more explanation of how there's this basically authority that this beast is given to do all these things. Almost again waiting for the right opportunity for there to be destruction. And then as we continue, we're going to hear of another beast at verse 11. Then I saw another beast that rose out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercises all the authority of the first beast on its behalf, and it makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound had been healed. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in the sight of all. And by the signs that it is allowed to perform on behalf of the beast, it deceives the inhabitants of earth, telling them to make an image for the beast that had been wounded by the sword and yet lived. It was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could even speak and cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Also, it causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, slave and free, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell who does not have the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let anyone with understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a person. Its number is 666. There it is. Now, I found that, I did not plan this, that this would be on Ash Wednesday. That is pretty hysterical.
Yes.
But this is referencing the Antichrist, and basically, part of this is derived from a motif from Deuteronomy chapter 13, which commands and gives caution to false prophets who lure to worship other gods. Markings of tattoos are a counterpoint to an earlier reference we have. Do you remember who first was marked in Revelation? Sorry. We got good reference to Genesis.
Yeah.
Who was first marked in this book? It's not one individual. It's a group. So it's referencing the marking of Christians who would be protected by having that mark. So there's already been a mark to protect Christians. And now this is a counterpoint of marking people who are in alignment or have this connection in obedience to the Antichrist. So it's a corruption. I think we've talked about this before. We'll say it again. 666 is the code name and the numerical value of Nero Caesar in Hebrew numerology. So that connects to this thought that the beast with the death blow is now Nero that's come back. And so everybody's now being marked with his number as he was given a mark of death. Okay?
I was thinking, up here where it talked about, at least this translation, it was able to animate the image of the beast so that it talked and this type thing. Does anybody comment that might relate to AI? You know how you see that people can take.
I'm sure now.
an
I'm sure it's a
image
reference
and then
now.
they can show that person walking and talking and doing things from a still photo. And it looks really real, and it's like,
Yes.
it kind of seems like something that would get.
Even crazier is when you'll see, I guess the example I'll give is like an interview between two people. And the words don't look lip synced, but they are, because the content is totally opposite of what that person would say. So it's made up. It's manufactured. And it's really hard to tell unless you're looking very closely or know the character of a person. It's hard to really know for sure. So
Artificial intelligence is not that intelligent. Or maybe it is. Deception.
Yeah.
It's deception.
well, yes, it is deception, but it's also the user that's using it to deceive, right? So there's a whole other gambit. It's like humans that develop and put AI to do certain things, that's its own separate problem. When AI has the ability to do things on its own, that's a whole other separate, But from what I hear, it's coming. It's all I hear lately. Any other questions about that? And we'll just comment on this one more time, because I'm sure we'll never reference it again. That in reference to the Antichrist, so many different figures have been thought of to be this person. Modern figures, the prehistoric figures, all kinds of people have been thought of to be this person. But in the context of this scripture, the Christians at the time would have thought of this as a reference to this phenomenon of Nero coming back, or some emperor who's come back. Can we have someone that would read chapter 14, 1 through 5?
Then I looked, and there before me was the Lamb, standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a sound from heaven like the roar of rushing waters, and like a loud peal of thunder. The sound I heard was like that of harpists playing their harps. And they sang a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. No one could learn the song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. These are those who did not defile themselves with women, for they kept themselves pure. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They were purchased from among men and offered as first fruits to God and the Lamb. No lie was found in their mouths. They were blameless.
Okay, thank you very much. A couple of things about this. Now we're getting very nice and holy and lovely, right? The first thing I wanted to bring up is this reference to first fruits that I found. They have been redeemed from humankind as first fruits for God and the family. It's not about agriculture or actually offering up fruit. This is in reference to the servants that are devoted to God that were martyred as sacrificial victims. So that is what they're referencing there. The other interesting thing that I discovered was, you'll see in verse 4, it is these who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. These follow the Lamb wherever he goes. When it's referencing this, this does not mean this means a little bit of something else than what we would understand. It's not celibate for their entire lives. It is celibacy perhaps after they have been with a spouse or married. And then they take this vow to then be celibate. So it's not pure teenagers coming up and growing and not having any connection with family or whatever. It's that there was a decision they made that they decided to take a vow of celibacy to then be a part of that. Okay? How about someone reads 6 through 13?
I saw another angel soaring in middle heaven. He had an eternal message to preach to all who were still on earth. Every nation and tribe, every tongue and people. He preached in a loud voice. Fear God and give him glory. His hour of judgment has come. Worship the maker of heaven and earth, salt, sea, and fresh water. The second angel followed, calling out, Ruined, ruined, great Babylon ruined. She made all the nations drunk on the wine of her whoring. And the third angel followed, shouting, warning, if anyone worships the beast and its image and takes the mark on forehead or hand, that person will drink the wine of God's wrath, prepared unmixed in his chalice of anger, and suffer torment from fire and brimstone in the presence of holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb. Smoke from their torment will rise age after age. No respite for those who worship the beast and its image, who take the mark of its name. Meanwhile, the saints stand passionately patient, keeping God's commands, staying faithful to Jesus.
Through 13, one more verse.
I heard a voice out of heaven, write this, blessed are those who die in the Master from now on. How blessed to die that way.
Okay, thank you. So you have 3 different angels. The first comes and shares this gospel. And this becomes a message to all people for them to be receiving and to understand, how they have to turn away from Babylon. It is going to be in ruin. Anyone affiliated with the beast or the image is associated with that. And there's a lengthy description of what happens if you are connected with that. And that basically is a connection to all those under the Roman Empire who would try and look the other way if Christians were oppressed, or if they would turn them in or hand them over. Anybody that's affiliated with this, that's not standing up for these persecuted people, are basically assumed guilty. What do you think it would mean for the Christians of this particular time that when they're reading this, that last verse, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord, who rest from their labors? What do you think it would mean to them to hear that?
Well, wouldn't it be that they were martyred, that type of thing, and they know they're gonna go to heaven because of it?
What would it mean for them to hear those words?
Encouragement.
Yeah.
Comforting.
Yeah. Hope in the midst of.
You also have to take it very seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
if you had not figured that out already, which I'm sure most of them had, but this isn't a game. This is.
Yeah. That's right.
This isn't gonna end in an easy way.
Yeah. Okay, let's finish up this chapter. Then I looked, and there was a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like the Son of Man, with a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. Another angel came out of the temple, calling with a loud voice to the one who sat on the cloud, "Use your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth is fully ripe." So the one who sat on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. Then another angel came out of the temple in heaven. He too had a sharp sickle. Then another angel came out from the altar, the angel who has authority over fire. He called with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, "Use your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe." So the angel swung his sickle over the earth and gathered the vintage of the earth. He threw it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood flowed from the winepress as high as a horse's bridle for a distance of about 200 miles. Okay, well, that's quite graphic. Quite the imagination. And it is certainly referencing lots of things, because in the New Testament, you can have all kinds of references to farming and agriculture, reaping and sowing. And as has been stated oftentimes again and again, you reap what you sow. And this is another dramatic way of saying that the fruit they've produced is what? Is it tasty and delicious? Is it good and great?
It's not.
No, it's foul, it's bitter, it's just awful. And so that is cut
You
out.
reap what you sow.
That's right. That's right.
I've heard that all my life.
You have. Is that true? I guess it is.
I
don't know.
assume it is.
Yeah.
Mother used to throw guilt on me a lot.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. Yeah.
She
You're
didn't
right.
have to say anything. She just looked.
Yeah. Looks from mothers are big things.
And I think in a way it's true, because you may not sow it immediately, but it's gonna be down there one place on this road that you're going down.
Mm-hmm.
That you're gonna have to pay for it.
Yeah, it'll affect your life at some point. Yeah. That's good. We've covered a lot today. A lot of
That's
depth
not
in
very
these
encouraging. You mean I
chapters.
got more bad things.
No, you've got a lot of good things that you've sown. So we thank you all for being here, and you'll have a blessed Ash Wednesday where you'll get marked with the cross and not the beast.